Well, I'm just going to do a general sort of intro to like, why are we here? What's the aim of today? What are we discussing? And then we'll go into how VVOX will work. So Lee will take us through the polling system. You literally just need a web browser or your smartphone to type in the link and then type in the code. And it's as easy as that. But very quickly, I'm just going to share a screen. So this is what I have here. These are screenshots from when we first did this quiz at the LEV conference in 2021. And we did a handful of questions, and it was totally virtual, wasn't it? So we did this like live, the VVOX, again, we did this like live vote-in. And we were quite taken aback at some of the splits here. Like I'm just going to show you a few examples, but like this one, for example. So it was about recirculating filter. You can't access the filter to determine if how effectively it's performing. There isn't any information. Lack of suitable testing method to prove efficiency. What action are you going to take? We said, pass, fail, inconclusive, pass with caveat. There was a fair split there. A few would just straight out fail it. Some would inconclusive. I mean, personally, I would inconclusive it. And then pass with caveat. So 40% of people would pass a system where they couldn't even look at the filter. Very interesting. Why that split? So that was one that caught our eye. Another one, just as an example, we have a multi-branch system. Everything's hunky-dory other than one hood was unsatisfactory. Everything else was fine. What do you do? A 1/3 split here. We got fail the whole system, pass with cautious wording, or pass on provision that hood's corrected ASAP. Okay. I mean, the difference between pass and a fail, if we're going to talk about RAG, red, amber, green is one of our first questions. Would the client even look at that test sheet if they had green for the pass? So if there was a red fail, they probably would look at it and want to do something about it. Do you see what I mean here? It can cause quite a difference in actions from the client based on how you're getting your conclusion and ragging it here. And then just one more as an example, because these three were really very juicy, interesting ones. You're testing a wood waste system and with internal filter plant. Good control observed at all points, no concerns. However, no explosion relief panel is fitted. What are you going to do? 50-50, pretty much, pass or fail. And we're just like, really? I mean, this explosion relief panel, that can be really serious, possibly life-threatening event if it, worst case scenario, if it went wrong, and these things can happen. But if you passed it, put your concerns in writing in your report. Okay, well, fair enough. But is the client going to look at it because it's green? I mean, hopefully they're reading the whole report. But this is why it is really interesting to talk about these disparities here.
Just jump in there, Mary, on things like this. Is what concerns myself is that I know Desire, it's separate to COSH. We're testing these systems under COSH. So but if that unit went bang and someone got hurt and you ended up in front of a judge to explain yourselves, you would be seen as the expert who last inspected that system. And if you're the expert and you haven't given the right advice, then you're in a spot of bother. And potentially you've led that person to become, seriously hurt. So you've got to ask yourself, if it was an electrical fault, if you've seen bare wires or sparks coming out of the motor and it's still running, would you pass it or fail it? And it's the same thing. If you've seen something that wasn't supported correctly and it was, the ducting was falling down and could, land and hurt someone, would you fail it? Would you pass it? And as we are deemed the experts, the client are looking at us as the experts who are testing these systems. We've got to be raising these concerns, even if you raise it as a concern and sort of say this is a serious issue. Do you pass it? Do you fail it? I would like to have more guidance on this.
Exactly.
To make it more black and white.
Yeah. And this,
unless it's perfect, I fail it.
Yeah. Well, let's leave all this juicy discussion for, I think this is one of our first quiz questions, getting more into this. So that's just a general intro. This is why we want to talk about this more, to figure out why there's this difference of opinion. But before I'm going to hand over to Lee in a second to talk about VVOX and all that. But because there's so many of us in here, I just kind of want to make a system of how to get everybody's voices across without getting too messy, you know? So if you click on the show participants, it brings up that list of people who are in this meeting. And like right now, I'm going to click on the raise hand button, and hopefully everybody should see my hand now. You know what I mean? So if you guys, if we do our VVox, see the live results, and then I'll say, okay, who wants to go first? Who wants to voice their opinion here? Raise your hand, and then I'll pick on you, and hopefully in order of how they come in. This is being recorded. Not everybody wants to, you know, say, put their name to it or speak out loud. If you want to just put it in the chat box, that's fine too. Go ahead and just type in the chat box. If anything comes into the chat box, a question or opinion, I'm not going to name names. I'll just say, oh, we've had this opinion come in, and I'll just read it out. So you have that option of staying anonymous if you wish to. So it's up to you, you know. Okay, should I hand over to you now, Lee, to go through the details?
Yep. So I will just share my screen here. Cool. So let me know when you can see the VVox homepage.
Yeah, we got that.
Excellent. So everyone should have a mobile close to hand, hopefully. And if you join at vvox.app and you just type in that 9-digit code there, that should bring you into the quiz. I'll open the poll on the first question. So when you join, you'll know that you're in because this question should come up and should be answerable. So we'll just give everybody a moment to join. As you see, the numbers are going up, so it works. That's good. Good start.
You know what? I'm having a slight technical difficulty. I'm so sorry. I'm going to come in and out again. My list of participants isn't showing. I'll be 30 seconds. I'm sorry, you guys. Sorry.
No, that's cool.
Seconds.
Well, we've got 13 people in now, so just
Oh,
give everybody
perfect.
another
Okay.
minute.
Okay, I'll be a sec.
That's it. You got to enjoy the quiet, because when Mary comes back, there'll be no more stops.
So I'm 18 now. I believe I counted 30, 32 or 33 people because I don't have eyes on the chat now, so just going off.
So the chat's all good. There's no one saying they've got any issues, Lee. So hopefully everyone's able to log in.
Yep, we'll give it another.
See Mary.
Give it until Mary comes back, and then I'm able to.
Hi.
Oh, there you go. That was
Yeah,
quick.
hi. You know what? I'm so sorry, Adrian. Could you be the one that calls on people who raises their hand? I cannot. I don't know why. It's just not showing anymore. So okay, yeah, I'll be the chat box person.
Cool. So you got 24 now. So yeah, feel free once you're in, answer the question, and then you can just leave your phone to one side for a moment while we wait. Give it another moment, and Mayor and Adrian, just let me know when you want to close this one off, and we can have a look at the answers.
Yeah.
Well, we got to discuss this one a little bit at the LEV conference before we were having lots of technical difficulties. Oh my gosh.
What a day.
And this,
yeah.
oh goodness me. But yeah, this was quite a juicy one, wasn't it? I remember.
I think next year for the conference, we go back to an overhead projector.
Yeah, honestly. Just keep it simple.
Cool. So nearly at full. So just a couple of people left to answer. And then once it's closed off, you can't answer, but don't worry, you're still in it for the next question. So cool. Couple more. I'll give it another few seconds. One last person. You get full house. Cool. Yeah, am I okay just to close this one off?
Who's the indecisive person?
Cool. I'll close this then. And this will just. There you go. So there. Can you see your answers there?
There we go. So I've got a confession live on air, as they say. Years gone by, I would have been pass-fail on this, and my reasoning be, if there's an issue, you've got to fail it. You've got to give it a red sticker so people will take notice of it. Otherwise, if it's got a green sticker, even if you got recommendations, they just carry on and do their own thing. But recently, we've been doing some work for a company where they've asked us to monitor the return air coming out of the filter plant, and that is leading us to a lot of inconclusive reports where we could normally you might pass it, but the readings you're getting in the contaminant in the return air is leading it to either inconclusive or potentially fail. So we've actually had to adopt the top option. Still don't like amber, so we don't do amber, but it is a red or green still, but inconclusive with a blank color, well, plain color, empty box white, whatever color paper you're printing on. We are moving forward. So
yeah,
for
just
once,
gray for inconclusive.
Yeah. What does that mean, though? What does inconclusive mean? Does it mean they can carry on using? Does it mean they got to do something different?
Not enough information, nothing. Yeah, but like I like that research filter example that I gave in the beginning. Inconclusive. I couldn't even access it. I have no idea what the filter's like. It could have like huge holes in it. It could have, just completely chock full of dust or whatever. That's a fail, but how would I know? So I personally, I gray it for inconclusive.
We've got to be careful we don't turn into an industry who just give out inconclusive reports. Robert,
but maybe that'll push the clients to get this information to us. It'll spark, come on, where are your previous test reports? Where's the commissioning report? Where's
the history?
We're coming to site, arrange access for us ahead of time, make sure the process is running. Kind of, how I've done this, I've been having to write quote disclaimers to go into our quotes saying, before we arrive to site, we really need you to tell us if we need access to heights, are your ports drilled? Are we going to have access to these ports? Do we need to drill them? Do we need to ask one of your maintenance people to drill them? Do you have any previous information that we can look at? Without that, it's so difficult for us to do a thorough examination, and that's what the regulations say, thorough, but we don't have this information.
Mary, Rob's got a question. Rob's going
to go for it.
Take your microphone off and
Afternoon all. Not really a question, just more of a statement. If your filters having contaminants in the return air, then it's can't be deemed safe. I would have said just no, clear cut, pass or fail. It's either safe or it's not. And if it's inconclusive, then surely that's not.
So just to clarify, we weren't measuring the contaminant. The client wants us to measure the contaminant in the return air, but the process wasn't running. So without the process running, we can't measure potentially what's coming through. So that was a inconclusive report until the plant is running. Then we go back and retest.
That's fair.
But that's where our inconclusive was coming in. Yeah, sorry, I should have been clear on that.
But right, as you say, either way, if you can't definitively pass it, then I would go with fail.
Yeah, agreed. Anyone else? You're gonna put your hand down, Rob. That's it. Nice one. Thank you.
In the comment box, so we have a opinion. So select RAG as clients can relate to this similar to an MOT certificate. So amber means they need to. I agree. I would go for the majority here as well.
You get amber
because like pass.
You get amber MOT certificates?
I think it lists, your tread on your tire is too thin. You need to, or something like that.
But it's not an amber. That's a fail.
Oh, I don't. You know what? I don't know enough about cars to tell you. Everybody wants to speak up, but I think the point is just relating to LEV here is like pass. If I was a client and I saw pass and it was just green, I would think, oh, okay, I'm okay. But I would very rarely find a situation where I could give a pure pass, because you guys have been out there. How many times have you seen an LEV that was just so sparkingly clean and perfect and working exactly as it should be, and there was absolutely no problems with it? But then amber, actions required, that I take my amber as more like capable of providing control, right? Capable of providing control. However, this and that needs fixing, this and that needs looking into. And that might not be something dire enough to warrant a red for fail. Like fail is, it is just horrendous. Do not use this system. Decommission it right now. Put it out of use right now. Fail. It's not doing its job. It's something's very, very wrong with it. But then amber, I would say more for possibly. I'm just trying to think of an example. Maybe capture hoods. Welding fume. We've all seen welding fume and capture hoods, right? So if the system itself was just all hunky-dory and grand, but maybe the operator wasn't positioning it close enough, and the action there is user training.
Just reading through the chat, there's some great comments coming up in the chat.
You know what? I'm gonna stop rambling because I want to hear from you guys, but you can tell I have a lot of opinion on this. Okay, so
we had a hand up just now as well.
Go for it. Yeah.
I've lost who it was. Who had their hand up? Come on, you can't shy away now. It's gone. They've taken it.
Oh dear. Well, let's read some of these comments anyways. So one comment here, you get major faults where you can't drive your car away, and advisories that need to be done, but you can continue to drive, which would be red and amber. Okay. Yeah, which would be red? I suppose, major fault.
Amber. I think that's question.
Oh, yeah. I see. Yeah.
What constitutes a amber? I think we all get red. I think we all get, if there's contaminant not being controlled or substances coming through, we all get that. It's what constitutes amber. And we talk about our grey areas in LEV. Well, perhaps we need to talk about our amber areas in LEV. What is that? Pass is great. Everything's good. We get that. We get a blatant fail. It's if the system could provide control, if these things are done, or if something else is done. But the trouble is, those if something is done could be quite major. We were talking earlier about one with an explosion vent. If that plant was fitted with a flameless venting device, would that be a pass? So is that an amber fail? Or, how long do you wait to fit that explosion device? Do you give 3 months, 6 months? It's quite a big job fitting an explosion device. Or do you give them straight away? Do you fail it straight away? Because it could go bang now. It could go bang in 5 minutes. So it's a very, very grey amber area of what it is. I'm still prefer the fail. The fail, sort it out, get it right, and then then you can use it. But the consensus is people like the idea of an amber.
Yeah.
I think we would be in danger of giving out lots of reports with amber on them.
Some great examples here though coming up. So amber, for example, deterioration of supply over time, but not below the minimum advised. The hood is damaged, but still providing control. There's pressure across the filter, but getting close to the max. Yeah. So that, like in all those cases, it's still capable of control. Amber capable of control, but needs attention, needs action.
As a suggestion, if we have our pass fail red green, that's your overall system. Do you look at the recommendations in red, amber, green? Those high, medium, low recommendations. So you like the example I'm going to mention Damien, so I'm sure you won't mind me mentioning. Great, is a good point. The hood's damaged, but it still provides control. So you've still got control of the contaminant in the workplace, but for whatever reason the hood's been damaged, it's still working. So you're going to give it a pass because it's working, it's providing control. But you're probably going to give it you need to sort that hood out. That would be an amber, a medium recommendation. Give you 6 months to sort the hood out, for example. If you've got control, you don't need to swap the hood today. But if you've got a failed filter and there's dust coming through, then you've got to stop it straight away. So is there a level? Do we sort of grade the recommendations? Is that
order of priority? Yeah, I mean that's sort of option 3, isn't it? Just list your actions in order of priority. It's it's capable of control, but the hood's damaged. So number 1 priority, everything else is fine. Number 1 priority, fix that hood. So you could do that. Just don't rag it at all. Yeah.
And as Mick says at the bottom, if you had that, if you give it an amber, perhaps you then say, right, instead of retesting in 12 months, we retest it in 6 months. What reasoning is.
I've always found that interesting because I've seen some people do that. Oh, have us back in 6 months, in a few months. But I mean, who's to say 6 months is that enough time? It's so dependent on the situation, the client, and how serious the issue is. And I don't know. I feel a bit uneasy I don't like putting timestamps to things. But, oh yes, hand raised. You go
Mike.
for it. It's Michael.
Good,
Yeah.
Hi all, sorry, I put my hand up. You've kind of covered some of that off, Adrian, already, what I was saying. But I think the amber to me is something that is not critical. So it's something there's control, but you can tell that, through wear and tear or whatever, that you could begin to get loss of control quite soon. So like I was trying to use the analogy of like tread on your tires is amber because it's at like 2.6 millimeters. In 1,000 miles, it will fail. So you are going to have to take some action at some point. But I think there needs to be a caveat there to say, if you're dealing with carcinogens or aspergens or something like that, you've got to have a higher level of control and actions may need to be more serious. So again, we're going into like subsections of things here. My other point, and you may pick on this, but I'll say it now. We so often put these recommendations in. We do prioritize recommendations. We tell them to retest once they've done. We very rarely get asked to come retest. And I think some clients think if they do these things, that constitutes it will then pass the system. So if they say fix that hole in your duct or remove that blockage, they think that constitutes a pass subsequently. And we always say we need to retest following remedial action, but often we never get called back till the next year.
I think you're spot on, right, Mike. That's my experiences as well. Just to sort of wrap this one up, Mary, because we could be on this all week. Is there mileage for the industry, whether it's BOHS, LEV, whoever, to put together a group of people to explore this? I don't know if we can have a vote or whether we have a thumbs up from people and just get a rough feel for things, or people put their hands up or something. But if we were to set up an LEV technical committee or a BOHS committee to look at this and look at all these potential, what constitutes a pass, what's a fail, what's an amber, and then once we do that, we can provide some sort of guidance to the community to say this is what we would expect, and this is. If you do have, because the problem we're going to have is clients will go, "Oh, go on, that's an amber. That's not a fail. That's an amber." Whereas if we go, look, no, we have guidance available to us, and this is what constitutes a fail. This is what constitutes a pass. These things in the middle, they're the ambers, and it's one of those. Any mileage in that? People work with that, or is that just a waste of time?
I think I'm up for the idea. Yeah, I think so, because it does seem like it needs more structure. I mean, I'm kind of happy to see everybody likes the rag here. The majority do. But in what situation exactly would you pick that amber over a fail? I really like what Damien said here, though. But sorry, I'm like naming you, Damien. Pass as a client does not need further action. Amber, a client needs to act to maintain that control. So they have control right now, but they need to maintain it. And then red, the client needs to take action to achieve it. So great, yeah. But exactly. If we have like a document made up by a technical team listing scenarios that fit those three, options to go into, would be helpful, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Niall's got his hand up. Go on, Niall.
Hello, everyone. I agree that some sort of group to batter this out would be a good idea. The only problem is you've got so many systems, so many different industries. How long is this document going to be? And there might be some people that only deal with one industry and might be better suited to be making comments on how those systems work than others. And then, not to be defeatist, but it'll only be us that uses it. All the people that are passing everything willy-nilly until it's enforceable, it's a good idea, but is it worth doing? As I say, I think it's a great idea, but being realistic with how it's going to be used out with LEV Central and this group of people at the BOHS.
If we start doing things which are better than what the industry minimum is, then others will gradually follow suit in time. It doesn't happen overnight. It does take time. But if people start doing it, then others will adopt it, and then companies will turn around and go, actually, we like that. We like those reports. We want to use it. And I don't know about the rest of you guys, but when we do work for a new client, we tend to send off a sample report to say, this is what we do. This is standard of our reports. And they feed back, and some go, yeah, we like that. We like to look at your reports. We're going to use you guys. And you know, the HSE at some point will rewrite HSG 258 again. If they see that there's a body out there which is doing some good work and has some good ideas, they might say, actually, yeah, we'll change the guidance, because it is only guidance, and we'll change that to say red, amber, green. It's better for the client. When we look at the reports we write, we've got to remember who we writing these reports for. They're not for us, they're for the clients. So if it's more user friendly, if it's going to be benefit to the client and they're going to understand it, and therefore they're going to make these changes we want them to make, then that's got to be a good thing. So we've got to set these trends. We've got to raise the bar and do this. And if we don't, who else will? So do we just carry on doing stuff which we think is wrong or not quite right? Or do we actually say, yeah, let's do this? And then hopefully, that will catch on and others will look up to it. And this is why I leave you, we've done the standard text report, not because I had nothing else to do that day, but because it helps give people a minimum standard to work to. And it's just trying to encourage people to keep thinking, how can we do this better?
Mm-hmm. You guys are so right. This would be such a mammoth thing to put together. Oh my goodness me! A lot of opinions would have to go into it. It would be quite the document. But I mean, what can we get it from the roots instead? Us all in here, we've probably have all taken our P601 and the like. We're all similarly trained. Have kind of similar experiences on site with this testing, and our opinions are still so different. So could the P600 syllabus be updated to include more about how to formulate opinions around this, discuss different scenarios instead of making a document about it? Could it go from the training courses onwards? Do you see what I mean?
It can start there, and
Yeah.
it would have to be in there. The trouble with the P600, from my experience of teaching it and doing it, it's rammed already, and the 4 days are just not enough. To me, it's probably a 2-week course to be able to do comfortable, and then to start including more information and getting people to think out more outside the box. But you've got to start somewhere, and that's a good place to start. Those people come in the P600. If you can refer them to, I mean, some of you might, but I don't foresee printing out this list of reasons. But you can certainly host it on a website and scroll through it and do a search. And you can group it into filter failure, fan failure, or hood concerns and things like that.
Yeah.
So you can look at isolated components through the system.
Yeah. I just think as useful and amazing it would be to have this document of all these different scenarios, and this one's red and amber, it's getting our mindsets more aligned in the first place to tackle that disparity from training levels. So it's a tough one, isn't it? We just need to make P601 like 2 weeks, and then we're right. But we're saying like, we need a whole sub course just on Desir and all these other aspects. So
I think you do. The trouble is, we can't get,
and
as an industry, I'm talking to the converted here, but we can't get enough people to do P602, let alone 2 weeks of P601. The drop off in numbers from 601 to 602 is phenomenal. So, yeah.
Well, this could be the whole webinar in its own, just talking about RAG. So should we keep it interesting? Should we move on to question 2? I know there's still so much. I mean, I didn't even read every comment. I'm sorry, you guys, but let's keep it interesting. Go to the next one. And this one actually had a fair majority vote. So I want to kind of see if there's any 50-50s we land on. But we'll definitely not stop talking about this. We'll definitely keep it going. Let's
Cool. I'm just moving us to the next question then. So that should move you to an LEV commissioning texting question.
Yep. So when would you not undertake static air monitoring alongside your LEV commissioning or texting visit to site to show that the concentration of contaminant in the air at the exhaust point of the system is now sufficiently low? Sampling by the hood to show control is effective at that point. So to check the performance of the control device. To measure personal exposure levels for the purposes of LEV comparison, or to estimate personal exposure at the process because the person is normally very mobile and is not stationed at this particular process all day.
It's not the easiest questions to read.
It is quite chunky, so let's give you guys like a proper minute or two to mull that over.
Not.
Personal. Is the question worded correctly? It does. You know what? Hold on a sec. Do not think. Yeah, I think the question does need a bit of clarifying, doesn't it? So when would you not undertake static monitoring? Well, when would you? Okay, so when would static monitoring be useful? Okay, so to check the performance of.
Yeah, let's wait for people to answer.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
But, I do agree with Will, Alex, and Damien. I think they're in the chat. There's I don't know who wrote this question, where it came from. Is Mark
You know what?
Strong on the chat? I don't think Mark's in the group, is he?
No, you know what? I think this was you and me ages ago. Well, okay, yeah, we'll let the voting go, and then we'll try to clarify. Sampling by the.
So I think if I have to pick one of the four, there's an obvious one.
Well, we're pretty much done with voting. Should we call it? Oh.
One more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give it
I think that's it. We only had 27 answers last time, didn't we?
Oh, there you go. There you go. So yeah, the obvious one. When would you not undertake static sampling? Definitely not for personal exposure, because yeah, that's it.
Yeah. But the others, I mean, to measure the concentration in the contaminant in the return air, commissioning it's a little bit difficult, because if you need, you've all heard of dust cake and dust build up on filters, and some filter manufacturers say that the filter is optimum until the dust cake is built up. I'm not a fan of dust cake, and anyone who's been on one of my courses will heard my rant about dust cake. So measuring the contaminant in the return air on a new system when it's being just after it's commissioned won't necessarily give you very much. It might give you 0 because nothing's coming through, but that's because there's not a lot on the filter at that point. Sampling by the hood to show effective control. That's good. I like that. And I think that's something we should be doing more of as a community, to prove that hood is actually taken away. And hopefully when you do sampling by the hood, you get 0, and that it is all being taken away. But where do you position your monitor? Where do you put, when you meter, where do you put it? Do you put it at the face of the hood? Do you put it at the operator's positioning? Do you put it in the breathing zone? we've got no guidance on that. So it'd be good to have some industry guidance on, okay, if we are going to take a static sample at the hood, where do we position that static sample?
Yeah, and when, like, I mean, you could even argue, should this be done at commissioning, even to show, like, could this be a part of showing adequate control? You know,
Yes.
well, here you go, alongside commissioner texting. But yeah, so if the person is using, say a person's running 5 different processes in one day, and there's LEV for one process or something, if I put that monitor on them, you know, personal sampling device, they're walking around, is that really saying anything of much in regards to that LEV system? So no, so I mean, at that point you'd want to rely on qualitative measures, obviously use just smoke test, whatever, to see if it is controlling. But how are we going to show that that LEV is achieving adequate control without, if qualitative analysis isn't enough on its own, if we did need to take a sample?
I think question 4 is, you wouldn't do static monitoring for question 4 to estimate personal exposure. They're different things. So the correct answer, well, the correct answer is certainly 3 and 4, you wouldn't do static monitoring. Question 1, probably not. It's not really that effective at commissioning stage. At routine test, it could be effective because the filter would have been loaded with dust by that point, and if anything's breaking through, you'd see it. But certainly, answer 2, you could use static monitoring there. So going back to what Will said earlier, you know, is the question worded correctly? I think the question is probably worded slightly wrong.
Could have been a bit more clear, but yeah.
When would you do static monitoring at commissioning?
Yeah. Would you do one at the hood and then one at the back end of the filter to show? I mean, this is almost like saturation testing, isn't it? Just to show the difference. And then at what point would you do that? Just for commissioning? Where would you actually place it? It would need a lot of structure.
I do think static monitoring is something we should be doing more of in routine testing, and I think in time it will be part of our tools, you know, things we use to judge control.
Exactly. It is a good tool. I mean, there's smoke and Tyndall and the like of that, but sampling can provide a very good tool to measure performance.
I think the things we've got to look at is, do we use handheld equipment, or do we use pumps? And you know, sending filters off to labs delays the results of the test. That good thing, is it a bad thing? It adds to the cost of the test as well. But it's something I think as an industry, again, we need to get our head around. How do we do this, and how do we all do it the same way so it's repeatable?
Exactly. Yeah, it would take a lot of structure to get it right. Because we've had no raised hands for this, can I suggest we go into the next one? Because I think that one didn't spark too much debate there.
Yep. So I've just moved on to the next one now.
We have some comments about the last one about using direct readers for an initial assessment, which is a good point. All right, on to the next one. So what motivations affect your decision-making process regarding LEV text conclusions? Commercial implications or sensitivity to the client, safety aspects, so mechanical safety, explosion, fire prevention, adequate control of workers' exposure to the contaminant, needed to complete the job or satisfy a legal requirement. So I think maybe this should have been wording what motivates you the most, because really, I mean, certainly the second and third one should be motivating you. You know what I mean? But yeah, what motivates you the most? And I think, Adrian, I think the reason why we wanted this question is because we did this quiz for the LEV conference and then again for the Alk Hygiene conference. And there was an interesting disparity amongst the two groups.
Certainly difference, wasn't there? It was very, very clear between the two groups.
Yeah, so I won't say anything till the voting's done, but
we'll just give it another couple of seconds.
We're down to 26 people now. Oh, 27.
Oh, they're back. So note for 5, and I'll close it. Oh, I'll close that one then.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
Well done, everybody. Okay. So I think this kind of tells me I think there's a lot of like hygienists in here.
Yes.
Because when we had this question for the LEV group, there was a little bit too much of a percentage for commercial implications, I think it was. Because if I designed a system and I put it in place and I came into the testing layer, I'm going to be motivated to always pass it because I designed it. But we know, because we've been out there, we've seen these LEV systems not designed well for purpose. Was there a specification? Was it, put in commissioned properly to show adequate control? A lot of the time it's not. So these designers that then get the task of testing it as part of the service, year on and year out, may have another motivation there. You see what I mean? Any opinions on that? Has anybody else seen this?
As a designer who tests their own systems, that never happens.
Of course not. Well, yours all passed, so Should the designers be allowed to test their own systems? Well,
that's a better question. Yeah.
Carl, yeah.
Should there be an independent check on these systems?
Totally, it'd be totally unbiased then.
Yeah. That won't mean that designers won't test their own systems. They'll obviously test them to make sure they're working before it gets handed over, and then you invite the client in to bring in a third party. That's my view. That's how it should be done.
I mean, what does it say under 258? It says competent person, doesn't it? It doesn't. I can't remember the exact wording, but does it say who specifically needs to do the commissioning and the testing? You would think that who designed it would then commission it and then show that it's adequate for purpose, right?
I think you have to have. I think the design whoever, not necessarily has to have it, but whoever's designed it is going to want to commission it to set it up so it does what they intended it to do. But then it's the ongoing testing or having that independent.
I think don't.
Thank you.
Oh,
someone independent. Someone's got their microphone on.
Lee, can you use your powers to mute?
Normally I can, but because I've got my full screen on VBOX in this instance, yeah.
I'm going to answer. There's a question in the chat. Is a designer ever going to fail their own system?
Exactly, though. No, because they're always going to defend their design. But what if it wasn't a good design? I mean, how many times have we seen this happen where a client, calls up, says, "Oh, I have this process. It needs some LEV." Designer says, "I have the perfect system for you. Let me sell this." Was it the perfect system?
We have failed our own systems.
Oh, okay. I stand corrected.
No,
why?
Explain why. Not because of a shoddy designer, although he has to answer. People don't use it correctly. When we design these things, we and the other designers in the chat will know this. You specify, you say how the system is going to be used. Obviously, we talk to the operators before we specify it and design it, and they say, "Yeah, we do this," and then you design it with that in mind, and then you go back there to commission it, and it's all good. You do the user training, you leave them to it, and then you go back a year later, and then you find they do something different. They don't use it how it's intended to be used. Now that could be capture hoods not used in the covering the working zone, and it can be things like partial enclosures, which is what our instance was, a partial enclosure where somebody wasn't working within the enclosure. They've decided to take the work out of the enclosure.
This goes back to RAG almost, doesn't it? Because if the system was actually working fine, like Adrian, you did everything your end, you designed it well, it's all great, but then it's not being used correctly. Like the user is part of the system. So if the user's not doing it correctly, is that a fail? Or would you amber it to say capable of control but needs better training? This is where
that is a classic amber, isn't it? It's,
yeah. Exactly. Well, does anybody want to raise their hand? Anybody want to voice their pick? Because I'm conscious I don't want it just to be me and Adrian the whole time talking. This is for you guys. Just speak up. But
Will has said on the chat, not in my opinion, but I'm not sure what he means by that. So I don't know if you want to comment on that a bit more or put some more in the chat.
Oh wait, I think if designers were allowed to test their own systems, would not my opinion. Yeah, so they shouldn't be allowed to test their own system, which is a very good point because as I was saying, the reason we put this question up here is that we have seen other people motivated differently to somebody who's just alk hygienist. Like obviously, we're all alk hygienists here. I think a lot of us are.
I'm not.
Well, you're not, yeah. But me myself, I would say, adequate control. Absolutely, that's number one. But there are LEV testers there who are not alk hygienists, who are not alk hygiene trained. They're just pure LEV design, installation, and they've done their P61, done the testing. Are they sharing the same motivations as us? So, yeah, this is a terrible result because it's so clear everybody thinks alike in this group. But the last time we did this question, it didn't look this clear. Well, if nobody wants to raise their hand or any other opinions, let's keep it going because we have some really other juicy ones coming up, and I want people to share their opinions. Okay, everybody ready? So, would excessive noise generated from a LEV system be grounds for a fail? Yes, if it exceeded the lower exposure action value. Yes, if it exceeded the upper exposure action value. No, never, or it depends on what levels were shown during commissioning. Ooh. If it's generating excessive noise, was it even designed right in the first place? No. Depends, I like this. It depends on what levels were shown during commissioning. It was commissioned and it had 95 dB. Is that still?
That all?
Yeah, right. Okay, give you guys a minute.
While you guys are voting, I'm just going to say, from a designer point of view, noise is a nightmare. Clients don't quite get it. The information you get from the manufacturers on the plant give you noise levels in free field conditions. I've never yet seen a factory where I have free field conditions. There's always structures around and walls and ceilings and floors, which all bounce the noise around and resonate the noise. It's an absolute nightmare from a design point of view. Okay, we almost there?
Yeah.
Happy for me to close that one off? Or you?
Just slow down. Someone's thinking about it, but yeah, close that one.
No worries.
Yeah, I'm with that. So I get the whole when you're supplying under the machinery regulations, you're supplying plant, you have to ensure that it's fit for purpose and it's not going to cause other issues. And obviously noise is an issue. So if we are designing something which is noisy, we need to make people aware of it. But moving air is noisy. Fans, I've never had a silent fan yet. They are always noisy. To put in the old adage to buy quiet is all very good. It's expensive. And customers don't always take you up on it. When we quote noise levels, people don't understand the logarithmic scale of noise. They don't understand what noise is until you put it in. And like I said, we get quoted noise levels from suppliers, which will say one thing, but when you bolt it to a concrete slab with tin sheeting around and stuff like that, that noise resonates, it bounces around, so it can be a real problem. Would I fail a system because of noise? No, I probably wouldn't. But if it was different to the commissioning, so changes in noise generally signifies as maybe a fault or an issue with the system. So my initial response to this was no, never. But then, oh, actually, no. If I get a fan which is rumbling along quite nicely, but I come back to it next year and it has a high-pitched screech to it, something's gone wrong or something's going wrong. Would that be a fail? It will probably be an amber and further investigation needed. So I would probably go with D on this one. It depends on what it was during commissioning. You know, we do put systems in where there are no people. We put systems in where they are air defender zones. Personally, we advise people about, you know, this is a noisy system, and, you know, speak to an acoustic consultant. Unfortunately, clients rarely do. And it is an issue in the LEV industry. Noise is a problem.
Mm.
We don't talk about it on any of the courses because it's too complex.
I'm quite interested in the yes, if the UAV was exceeded, because I mean, like, there's so many sources of noise in a workplace, and yes, if it was over 85, it shows that the design, you know, maybe that wasn't great or something's happened to cause it to go over 85, but you wouldn't, like, a compressed air gun is very loud. You wouldn't just remove it from the workplace and say, fail, air gun, you're over 85, right? Like, it's so situation dependent. This being over the UAV, is that right next to the fan? Is that right next to the hood? Is that right where the worker stands? But do they only stand there for 5 minutes at a time? So they're only having a little bit of exposure. It's like, it's endless, you know, factors that can go into that. I would definitely say if it was over 85 and you're right next to the hood where, you know, where the worker is, where they're being exposed, that is a flag for concern. That could even, I'd probably go more amber there. Maybe the hood is working absolutely lovely, the system's great, but amber because this is causing excessive noise, action is needed.
But I think this question, you can change this question to have desire issues. You could change it to have electrical faults. You could change it to have earth bonding. You could be fixings on brackets, corrosion. You know, at what point do we fail a system? We have clearer guidance on that. It's providing adequate control. If it doesn't provide adequate control, it's a fail. Everything else almost goes into your amber category, doesn't it? But does that need to change? Does the guidance need to change to say, actually, no, if under the Health and Safety at Work Act, as professionals and competent people, we have a responsibility to highlight and to make sure people are safe. So if we do see an electrical fault, I'm not an electrician, and I don't think many of us on this call are. But if we saw something which didn't look right, a bare wire, would we fail a system? Or would we just raise that and say that's not good? You know, if one of the guys this weekend tested a system which filter plant with a shaker motor, and the filter plant wasn't bolted down. So every time the shaker vibrated, it just bounced around the workshop. Do you pass or fail it? You know, it's not a fail issue. It still had adequate control. So, you know, it's do we have more reasons for failing other than just control?
Yes, exactly. I mean, this relates back to that one example I showed earlier from our 2021 about, oh gosh, let me find it again. Sorry. About the about the explosion relief panel. Yeah, the question was, there was, you know, the system was great, but there was no explosion relief panel. Do you pass or fail it? And it was 50-50. But I mean, is the explosion relief panel having anything to do with adequate control? It's still controlling the cloud. It's still all great and preventing exposure, but if it explodes, you know, it could be catastrophic. And half said they fail or pass. So it kind of, yeah, relates back to this as well. Should there be other concerns just beyond adequate control? It's our duty, isn't it? I mean, yeah, Health and Safety at Work Acts. Oh God, I'm going to embarrass myself. I can't remember the section. But you know, we have to protect others in the work that we do. So if we spot concerns like this, and then you must flag it.
Yeah.
And then same for noise as well.
Mike has just said in the chat, you know, if it's safety critical, then yes, we fail it. Perhaps we, you know, you have a section, adequate control, pass, fail, safety critical, because it could be controlling the hazardous substance.
Yes, interesting, safety critical. Well, I mean, excessive noise is health critical. What if somebody goes deaf by this system in a year's time? you know, I'd fail if I knew that was going to happen, if I suspected that could happen. You know, this system is 95 dB, and you know, the client's not doing anything in the way of hearing protection, or just, you know, something obscene is happening.
So
My goodness.
When we set up our committee to look at red, amber, green, what constitutes a pass, what constitutes a amber, we can start creating a fail category as well, and putting things in there to say, well, if it's this, that's a fail. If it's this, that's a fail.
Yeah.
Do we add that? As an industry, do we need that? I think you're right. I think, you know, again, if someone sues their employer because of noise exposure at work, and they say, well, I stood in front of that filter plant for 15 years at 95
day. Yeah.
And you know, but Mary Cameron came in and passed it every year.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, I mean, I like this point here. I think it would also depend on whether the LEV system was heavily contributing to their noise exposure or other processes. I mean, there's so much. What circumstance would we come across where that person is in front of that LEV all day, every day? I mean, maybe, you know, it could happen. Most of the time, the workers are pretty mobile, aren't they? And there'd be other sources of noise. So it'd be very, very hard to point the finger at this LEV. It's very, you know, made me deaf specifically. So maybe we're talking about scenarios that might not actually happen, but it certainly could be argued in some cases that there was a heavy contribution to the noise exposure. Yeah, a lot of variables there, though. Does anybody want to raise their hands and speak up? Come on, we're doing all the work here.
You will also voice after the first question.
I know. Go on. We have all these lovely comments.
Should we be taking noise levels during our examination test? And if so, where? You know, and to what degree? A lot of people have apps on their phones nowadays and measure noise levels on their phones. Is that good enough, or should we be getting the frequency bandings? The noise level on its own doesn't really tell us very much, does it? We need frequency banding.
Yeah. What if it's that high pitched, you know, squeal noise you're talking about? My goodness, you would need pretty you know, special hearing protection possibly if that's where you wanted to go. But or just sort out the source of the problem. Obviously, go find out, why is that squealing happening? Is there something wrong with the motor, etc.? But yeah, it's a whole nother set of training there. It does go a little bit beyond hygiene, doesn't it? Like, would I know how to go and oh look, this motor over here is squealing. I know how to fix that. No, I wouldn't. I'm not mechanical enough. I would then call somebody in. I'd probably go to you, Adrian, to be honest. You probably would be able to tell me what this squealing was coming from. But
go on, Rob.
Rob, go ahead.
No, you're basically hitting the nail on the head there. There's still this divide between the occupational hygienist and the engineering side of it. You know, I wouldn't necessarily know where to take appropriate noise level readings to get a good picture of what's going on. And as you're saying yourself, you wouldn't necessarily know why there's something mechanically wrong with the motor. So there's both sides of it have gaps in the knowledge which need to be addressed somewhere.
But we can address those if that's the thing with order training. It's you know, if there's people who want to be trained, there are people out there who will do training. But we have a community, unfortunately, with the LEV world, where, like the 601, people do the 601 and that's it. And I know a lot of the guys, you know, people on the chat have done more than just the 601. But you only do these training things once. So to set up a course, to run a course, it's time consuming, it's expensive, and that's why courses are so expensive to attend. There are plenty of people who can provide training on things like noise and, you know, swapping over motors. That's something, you know, people would be taught to do. Or you amber it and put it in and say, look, you need to go in and speak to an acoustic consultant, or you need to go and get an engineer to swap the motor over. I think from our point of view as testers, and we're only talking about testing today, you know, that thorough examination, are we doing a thorough test if we're not checking noise? I think you'd find it very difficult to argue that you've done a thorough test if they said, yeah, but you know, it's got this high pitched screech going on. Did you not notice it? And you go, what screech?
Are we doing a thorough test if we're not checking the explosion relief panels and the zoning around it? If we're not checking the electrical setup, because maybe there's a problem there. You know, there's like so many things. For one system, you could honestly have like 4 or 5 different experts in their own field come in and advise. You get your AUK hygienist, you get your Desir person, you get your electrician, you get your acoustics consultant, you get your Adrian Sims, you know, designer type person, just for one system. So it's I think this is where we're struggling, and it is becoming an issue, is that, you know, I go out and do these tests and I have spotted Desir concerns, but I am not a Desir expert. So there must have been Desir aspects that I just didn't even know how to spot.
But Mary, this is good. What we're discovering is great. I mean, as an industry, we're moving forward by just having these conversations and taking it to the next level. When I first got involved in LEV back in the late 90s, the company I worked for, their LEV testing, they would go to a woodwork shop, pull the flexi hoses off the machines, put a 100 mil rotating vane over the end, measure the velocity. That was it. That was an LEV test. Okay, that's 20 odd years ago now, and we're now talking about, you know, measuring the amount of dust in the return air, measuring static sampling at hoods, measuring. We've moved on so far in those 20 years. Not far enough. We've got a long way to go still. But I think when we start having these conversations, and then people go, yeah, I can do that. I can go and buy a meter. I can measure the amps and the phases to make sure that the motor is okay, or I can measure the noise. I might need some training. We can get the training sorted. The industry is moving forward, and by having these calls like this today, we're putting seeds of ideas in people, and hopefully people will go and go, yeah, actually we can do that as a business. We can do that. So
I know this.
Rob's right with his last chat. There are still a lot of people who are just measuring the velocity at the end of a flexi hose.
So
we can't wait for them to catch up. You know, the rest of the industry needs to push on.
Yeah. It's going to be great to talk again in 50 years time and see all this, you know, progress that hopefully has happened. But yeah, exactly. Until then, we can just keep progressing. I like this person's comment. So should testing be done by an independent body where everyone employed is trained to a high minimum level?
I think Neil's right. I think he's spot on right. It's yeah.
To get your one ultimate LEV person. Oh.
Well, not just one. You know, you can have teams of LEV people. But and that's a whole different conversation about, is LEV testing, is it a one-person job or is it a 2-person job? Do you do on your own,
or a 5-person job? You know, my goodness. It's like it's quite hard as well, because that's a lot of expectation as well. Like, we go in as testers, and of course we're looking at adequate control, like we saw in, you know, the last question, lots of focus on adequate control. But how are we also being trained to spot these safety things? I don't know a thing about electrics and, you know, electrical wire. I don't know. You know, I know just a bit about Desir's, what Adrian's taught me on the P600 courses, and that's the extent of it. So that's a lot of weight on my shoulders going in as a tester to be like, you should have spotted that. You should look at that. You should blah, 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 blah. Yeah, and like, I mean, I could spot this noise because with AUK hygiene we deal with noise as well. But would your LEV tester, who is an AUK hygienist, think about that so much? Think about deafness? Think about how high is excessive noise? Do they know the 80 and 85 limits? I don't know.
Should we move on?
Let's move on. Unless there's any other. Is it? No, let's keep it going.
Go on, Lee, press the button.
All right. Is a fire suppression system in the ducting suitable to control explosion risk in a wood waste plant? Yes, no. Depends on where the sensors are located, or unsure. I think you have a story behind this one, don't you, Adrian?
I do. Yeah.
Ooh. There we go.
I can tell it while they're pressing their buttons. So I went to see a factory which had a couple of wood waste systems put in on very, very large CNC machines. And they had one plant put in which had an explosion non-return damper, and when you looked at the plant, you couldn't see the explosion venting devices or the bursting panels. But actually, when you went on Google Earth, and some people mock me for my Google Earth surveys, but when you went on Google Earth, you could see these things were so big, you could see the bursting panels on top of the filter plant. The plant next to it, which was identical, didn't have an explosion non-return damper. So straight away you go, these two plants are the same, they're doing the same process, two CNC machines, all on wood dust, no non-return damper. That might be an issue. And when you looked on the Google Earth photo, there was no bursting panels on top of the filter. So it had no Desir protection devices. So you start talking to the customer. Okay, what's going on? I can see this one. This one's traditional. We can see what's going on here. That's fine. This one I've got concerns with. And they went, yeah, but we've got a fire suppression system in the system. Okay, explain how it works. So they explained how it works, and I'll wait for Lee to press the button before I. So good. I'm with the majority again. so this ducting on the inlet to the filter plant had a spark detector, and the idea is a bit further down the get this right now, upstream of the filter plant. As the spark came through the ducting, it sensed it, and then further downstream at that point, it would douse the spark, and therefore there was no explosion risk. And that was their Desir protection, which was great. But the system was turned off because it was separate and wasn't interlocked with the main extraction system. So is it acceptable? And my answer was no, that is not acceptable. You cannot have a system where someone can turn it off and carry on using the LEV without it. I think even with it on, I would be very concerned that a sensor will always pick up a hot ember or a spark. Or another issue, you might get a fault in the actual filter plant itself. So it may not be a hot ember or a spark traveling down the duct. It could be a fault within the filter plant that could cause the ignition source. And yet there was no sensor within the plant. So I'm sure there are lots of fire suppression system companies out there who will tell me I am wrong and I don't know what I'm talking about. They won't be the first. But for me, I think it's too high a risk to rely on a sensor to provide that level of protection. So I would go no.
Anybody else? Rob has a lot of great opinions. So I'll read out some of the comments. So there's still a huge amount of people that still. Sorry, I read the wrong comment. Fire suppression will only be activated once there is an explosion and the pressure would need to vent. Yeah.
Yep.
Even if interlocked, there is a time delay for signals being sent, maybe just a couple of seconds, but that enough. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So for me, and I'm reading through Rob's comments there, it's a no. I don't think that on its own is enough. I think it helps if you had fire suppression with all the other features, the explosion non-return, the bursting panel. So as Rob says, it can vent the increase in pressure that can be vented outside. It can any flame coming back through can be doused and therefore dealt with. That's all good, but relying just on a fire suppression system, to me it's high risk. Yeah.
How often is the suppression system test fired to? Will it actually work if it detects a spark?
Well, this is it. Yeah, and to run a fire detection system is usually quite an expensive thing. You have to release the gas, or you release it's usually a gas into the ducting, which then gets vented out. So how often is that checked? Is that checked once a year? If it doesn't work, it's a catastrophic failure of the whole plant. You've got the explosion coming back into the factory. You've got a very large filter plant which is going to blow up. It's a huge risk to rely on one sensor. or maybe 2 sensors, whatever it is. It's, to me, it's a large risk. I'd rather have the mechanical safeguards in place than rely on sensors.
A wet test is not normally carried out now due to cost and mess.
Yeah.
Test. If no other opinions, because
you can
go
tell
ahead.
the LEV designers in the group here, and all the hygienists, because for once there's very, very few hygienists getting involved in this conversation.
Oh, I'm gonna be honest. A lot of this is going above my head because, yeah. Wet tests. Yeah. Well, if there's not any other opinions or raised hands, and there was a pretty good majority vote here, I would propose going on to the next one. We have 20 minutes left, and I think we have 1 or 2 more questions. We could always go back to RAG as well. But you guys ate that one up, so if we really fancied it, we could. Okay, right. Next one. An accurate, detailed drawing or schematic of the LEV system is beneficial for the LEV installation contractor, the LEV tester, the LEV end user, everyone associated with the LEV end process. This one's going pretty quick. I think we're going to have a pretty clear answer here.
everyone should be answering number. Well, I'm not going to say which number.
Cool. Just say when on the close of this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lot. 25. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry to that last person. Just close it off now.
Yeah. Number 4.
Oh my gosh.
So
wow, I don't think we've ever got 100%.
No. So we're all agreed they're important for all of us and we all need them. And yet the quality of some of the drawings we see are just poor. You know,
or they're not there.
They're not even there. Yeah, there's a whole, and I don't think anyone. Yeah, we're not asking for Picassos or anything like that. But we do want a detailed schematic, simple, detailed schematic. We had the question at the LEV conference this year: what drawing package do people use for creating these things? And some people use CAD, AutoCAD, and SolidWorks, and some people use Visio and stuff like that. We just do them, or I just do them, using Microsoft Office in the drawing package in Word. But it's about the level of detail we put in. No matter what package you use, we want to know the size of the duct. We want to know the damper locations. We want to know the hood types and flexes, and trying to lay them out so people can follow it. We see some schematics on bigger systems which are just crammed into onto a postage stamp, and you can't quite follow it through, and lines don't join up. It's something we could all spend a bit more time on. But also, once we've produced these drawings, can we pass them around? Can we create a standard library of symbols? We like I say, we create our stuff on Word, and we create little blocks of a fan and a filter, and we drop them in when we need them. Do we have a centralized library where people use the same symbols? Do we create a standard? This is what we think the standard is for these schematics. This is what a symbol for a flexi hood looks like. This is what a symbol for a blast gate looks like. I think we're all agreed we all need them, and it's good for everyone involved. I just think we can do better with them.
It'd be great if we were very consistent with one another using the same symbols. I think in the end, because I know, when I was on your course, Adrian, we were each drawing our symbols for dampers and stuff, and mine were different to yours. I was like, oh my God, should that be how I'm drawing it? But with my reports,
that's the difference.
You were correct for sure. But I would give it, my text report to the client, and I had that legend showing, this means a damper and this means port or whatever. So if they can read that and understand it, if it's pretty clear, that it does the job. I definitely would still appreciate guidance on what it should look like, because maybe my symbols aren't as clear and convey, the better obvious message that yours do. But yeah, in the end, it's for these people. The LEV end user. Yeah. So the client, the owner really needs to understand where all these things are in the system, because the testers, the installation people, we're just there once a year. That's it. What's this client going to do all these other days of the year? They need to have this detailed drawing showing where all these parts of the systems are. So if something goes wrong and you and I or whoever can't be there to look at it with our expertise, this could be very beneficial to them.
So when I sound like my dad now. When I first started out in industry, I was in the building services industry, and I know a few of the guys on the call would have come from building services as well. When we design plant rooms, we used to, because the plant room is full of pipework containing lots of hot water, you can't just open it up and look inside. You can't take it apart. So you had these fantastic schematic drawings, usually in a frame on the wall, picture frame on the wall. And so when you went into the plant room, you could follow the pipework around, you could follow the schematic, and you could see what was where and what size it was and what the flow rates were, and all the information was on the schematic on the wall. We can do that with LEV systems. You know, should we be having a schematic fixed to the side of the plant or supplied with the plant? And in this day and age, you know, even if it's a QR code like we've got on the screen here, and you can download the schematic, or things we can do better which will help with it. Yes, if a system's doing commissioned properly, there should be a proper drawing provided with it anyway. And commissioning, should it have a general arrangement drawing, i.e. showing the actual physical layout of the plant, and a schematic, and then the schematic goes into the text report. But it's definitely something we all need and to be able to refer to relate to, and it's, as we've all agreed, it's useful for everyone. So it's something we can do better.
Yeah, it's definitely useful to have, what you're saying about, you know, it should come with the commissioner report. Oh my gosh, absolutely. But we've been to sites, I'm sure we all have, where the system's 20, 30 years old, and there's a new facilities manager, and they haven't a clue who installed this, when it was installed. There's no commission report. There's nothing. I had this texting job once where it was fume cupboards, and I was trying to find out, you know, okay, I could test the hood. Where does it actually exhaust to? Hadn't a clue. We went up to the roof. There's just stacks everywhere.
Yeah.
And I was like, and we had to get a smoke machine so that one of us was downstairs and was smoking out that fume cupboard to know which one it linked to.
Yeah.
And it's just so outrageous that we even had to do that, because there was no darn schematic from 30 years ago.
You know, I want to point to Gordon's just put something in the chat, and he's not for the first time 100% right. Annotation. We need to put notes, you know, note our drawings. What are we looking at here? Is it just a series of lines, or does it mean something? So we need to put, it's the filter, this is the fan, this is the hood 1, 2, 3, 4. Need to label these drawings so people can follow them, you know, and so something we can all do better.
Oh, definitely. Oh, come on, you guys, let's have some more opinions here. Raise your hands. Come on. I'm trying to find an example. Actually, I came across a really horrendous schematic on site. I'm not obviously going to name which company this was from or anything, but let's see if I can find it. Well, if nobody else is raising their hand, did we want to move on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So this is 7 of 8, and then there's one more after this, and we've got about 10 minutes to go, so we should be able to get through to the end.
Great. Yes. Which of the following is the most recognized model within the construction industry for planning of design works? Oh, Adrian, you're going to have to take over on this one.
Okay.
Because
so this is something that cropped up for me not so long ago. Talking to a colleague who is a SIBSI building services engineer who's got involved in LEV recently, and we were talking about a job he's designing and what stage he's working at, and he kept saying, I'm at stage 3 or stage 4. And I carry on the conversation. He kept going back to I'm at stage 2, and he said, I want you to take it to stage 7. What the hell are you on about? I have no idea. So he said, well, surely you know, you know, I'm a CIBSE fellow. I'm involved in CIBSE, been involved in building services. I understand some of these things. And so he said, oh, we're following this plan of works. Never heard of that. Never come across it. And some would say, well, yeah, I see why you won't come across it. And others will go, well, you should know about it if you're doing these types of works. So it was a case of, okay, what does everyone else do? What do we follow? And I said, well, we follow this method and this is how we do it. And, we don't have these set stages, but we do it this way. So that's where this question came from is okay, there are different methods out there, different plans out there. What do we follow? What do we work on? Mick's in there straight away. Look at that, fastest finger there, Mick, in the chat. So again, for those of you who are just pausing and waiting to see what answer we're going to give, Mick's almost given the game away a little bit in the chat. If you want to cheat and see what he's put.
So sorry.
Want me to close that one off?
A couple more to do their vote. I think we're all done there, Lee. I think.
Cool, I'll close that one.
Yeah. So this consultant was telling me about the RIBA plan of works. And I said, I've never heard of it, never come across it. And he said, oh, we use it all the time. And my response was, but that's for architects, isn't it? And he's like, well, yeah, but we all use it. So they have it that they take a design to a certain point and then they stop and hand it over to someone else or do something else with it. And they have these various stages. And I'd never, ever come across that. Obviously, most of you guys have come across it and and are aware of it. We just follow HSG 258. I don't know where RTPI plan of works come from. I don't know who's that. I've never heard of that one. But interesting. So out of the 60%, which is obviously most of you on the call, you should all be able to put your hands up and explain to me what the RIBA plan of works is, because I'm still not too sure. And do we work to that as an industry? Should we work to it? If it's something we should work to, then yes, we'll adopt it and we'll take it on board. But as far as I was concerned, it's like, well, if we're going to design a job, we'll design it from start to finish. Go on, Mick. Go on, Mick.
Yeah, I think we definitely need to get involved in it. Where I work, we are heavily involved with RIBA plans already. We've got big projects and we tend to get involved really at the 2, 3 and 4 stages, a huge stage for LEV design. 3, for example, is like concept design. You get your basic P&IDs, and then 4 will be detailed design. Then 5 is installation, and so on and so forth. But yeah, as an LEV community, there's no doubt about it. It's big, and we need to get involved more. Maybe it's something we need to get in the next LEV conference. Somebody that can explain it very well. That's
exactly what we were looking at and sort of saying, okay, can we give a presentation on this? Because I mean, you just said there stages 3, 4, 5. That's exactly how this conversation for myself started. And I said, well, what's stage 3, 4, 5? What is that? And they said, oh, concept. We do concept through to that. And from my point of view, when I do a site survey to come and look at a fresh, new job for the first time, I've usually done the concept design by the time I've sat in the car to come away. We do it slightly differently because that's how we end up doing things. But as an industry, should we be catching up with the rest of the world and following the RIBA plan of works? By the sound of it, by the feedback, yes, we should. And actually following that through. So, and it goes. I mean, Mick, you probably know it better than I do, and you've put the link in the chat. Thank you for people to have a look at it. It goes on, doesn't it, to handover and user training and stuff like that. It's quite detailed at each stage of the way what that amount of work entails, and then you stop and then you hand over to someone else, or you might carry it on through the whole lot.
Yeah, and you can go back a stage if it's not right. You can go back a stage as well, Adrian.
Okay.
So you have meetings about this and the other, and you say, look, we're not at the detailed design. We need to go back to 3. It's not a good move, but that does sometimes happen.
Yeah. No, that's good. So yeah, I think definitely the LEV conference, this is going to be one of the topics, just to, if nothing else, to introduce people to it. And so when you are out there and you're having these conversations and someone says, oh, RIBA plant, you go, I know about that. And we can have the conversation. So, okay. Any other input? Anyone else want to? No?
Oh, lovely. Everybody good? Okay. Oh, this is this is a great question to end on, isn't it? Okay, go ahead, you guys. Do you feel like you need any more training on any of this?
I reckon this is 100% no. I think everyone's got this.
Oh, we're good. We're good.
Can't teach anything.
Well, Adrian, you've taught me everything I know. So if I were, uh-oh, no, my answer is no. I need no more training. No. Every day is a training day.
Exactly. Very true. I got to learn how to use this new multi-ray I've got.
Oh, wonderful. Christmas came early for you. I love it. You own it or did you rent it?
No, we bought it. We
bought
bought
it. Awesome.
In the pile of kit we've got.
Oh, great. Okay, should we stop it there?
No. Yeah.
Well, oh, there's some cocky Mr. 5% over here. Who's that? No, just kidding. Just kidding. No, we definitely could use some more training. So it's yeah. Oh, and exactly. Yeah. So training is not a one-off event. It needs constant refreshing. This is where CPD is so important. And you know, yeah. I mean, we could go on and on about CPD and you know the potential of that coming in through LEV and all that. But yeah,
I think what we need to know, not just myself as a training provider, but other people as well. What training do people want? What do they need? You know, and I'm sure Bill would put on additional courses or provide additional training if he knew the market was there and people are interested. It's knowing what people want to know. And if people wanted to know more on Desir, I mean, I think there's probably, and Gordon might have something to say, but certainly a one-day, dare I say, idiot's guide or beginner's guide to Desir, which can be done on what to look for when you're testing LEV systems. There's information. We're talking about noise and how do we measure noise. I know as hygienists, you probably don't do very much with measuring voltage at electrical motors. Is that something we should be doing when we're doing testing work? Perhaps it is. Do we need a half-day course on doing that? Is it a practical course? Do we need an LEV center set up somewhere where we can go and do actual hands-on training somewhere in the Midlands, somewhere in the central part of the country, so we can physically use some of this kit? We've been doing some work at LEV on biological safety cabinets and doing KI discus training and HEPA filter testing and fumigation training. Again, none of that is taught on the piece here as courses. I don't know if as hygienists whether it's covered very much at all. Do you do fumigation as hygienists? And there's lots of other things we can talk about and do courses if there is interest there. They could be one-day things, they could be seminars, they could be multi-day courses if need be.
Yeah. Oh, I think there's definitely a market there. My good, you got one person right here. I'm sure so many of my Alk Hygiene, LEV Tech's colleagues would be interested in a whole P600 course on Desir, one on research systems, one on biological cabinets as well. That's a whole other ballpark. One just on RAG, one on just on, like this, our first question was definitely the most popular because there's quite a bit of difference of opinion there on when to amber something or red fails.
I think report writing is a massive chunk of should be done. How many of us get taught how to write a report? We learn it and we think we're good at it, but our reports aren't for us or our colleagues in the industry to read. It's for somebody who doesn't understand what we're talking about to read. So we need to put them in layman's terms. We need to make them understandable. And if we want someone to do something, how do we get that call to action? How do we make them go and do those changes to that system? instead of just red flagging it. You know, how do we explain it better?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, we're out of time. Oh goodness. Before we like wrap up, is there anybody here who wants to raise their hand, give any feedback on any of the questions? I mean, I certainly think we should do another one of these webinars at some point soon, because it's been very interesting, hasn't it? So sharing our opinions today.
And if people have questions they feel want to go on the screen and, you know, have the vote, send them in to us.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we're always looking for more questions.
Oh gosh.
Dodgy
Yes.
one marks in.
Great. Well, I like Rob's comment. So Desir, filtration, electrical maintenance, commissioning, all other hygiene areas. Oh my God. Yeah. The P601, 2, 3, 4. It just isn't enough, is it? That you could dedicate your whole life to learning, like you have, Adrian. We all just need to.
I think it is. I think if you want to be a hygienist, I know you're a hygienist, but an LEV professional, which is what I want to be, you have to understand the testing, the design, the commissioning, but also the ergonomics. You've got to understand noise. You've got to understand monitoring. I don't do monitoring, but I need to understand it, because when you talk to me and say, we've monitored this, I need to understand what you've done. And so it doesn't stop at P601 or P602. It goes on. And the more you start looking at it, I mean, as a designer, we get involved with structures and structural loading of stuff. You know, the last week or two, we got a project. I've been looking at the structural loading of M10 bolts to make sure the stuff we're going to hang from the roof actually stays hung from the roof and not land on the floor.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, this is. I think what we can agree on, we have a mixture of, I think there's quite a few hygienists here, but there's also just, you know, LEV professionals, and we both do LEV texting. And there's the weight of the world on our shoulders to be able to do this right, isn't it? It's a rabbit hole. Exactly. It really is. So it's nice to be able to, you know, share stories and share frustrations as well. And and to know that we're not alone. We all come across these situations and think, oh my gosh, how am I supposed to assess that? How am I supposed to spot this Desir issue? And it is a minefield. It really is. But well, should we wrap up there? Hey Lee, can I ask you a little favor? Could you drop your screen? I want my frame to come up big, because I want to leave us with a little giggle. So I found that schematic I was talking about. Is my frame big now? I hope it is. Am I big? I don't know.
Yeah, it should be. I've started screen share now, so it should
You got
be.
to turn your blur off, turn your background off.
Oh, let's see. Okay. So this is, you can't identify this person at all. So I hope nobody should get mad at me or anything. Hey, is this good enough? So here's just multiple capture hoods. And then purple is me writing, that's an explosion isolation valve right there. They said it was the fan. The fan's over here on the filter unit.
So that symbol is a mechanical symbol for a mover, a fan, or a pump.
Oh no, it was
it's
isolation.
Pointing in the direction of flow.
Oh goodness, no, that was definitely, the fan was most certainly over here. So I was just like, no indication of dampers. There's no ports. That was it. That was the schematic.
Right.
I thought, oh my gosh, do you guys, do you think we could improve on that?
I think we can do better than
that. Anyways.
Peter's just digging some out for us. He's gonna send them through.
Looks like
that army.
Oh my gosh. Awesome. Better than some I've seen. I really hope not. Goodness me. Okay. Looks too familiar. I think we definitely, the LEV conference that we'll be planning, we'll touch on schematics again, because that seems like a popular one, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay. Shall we wrap up? It's 5 minutes over. So nice having you all participate. Yeah. And it was,
thank you very much.
Great. And we'll do this again for sure. It seemed like it was very productive and very, very interesting.
Yeah.
So thanks to everybody. Okay. Well, we're getting lots of thank yous. Yay. Okay, excellent. Thank you all very much. See you next time.